So the topic for today is enterprise risk management recommendations. Okay, this is topic of subject cloud computing for business. The subject code is KMBIT-03. So key references for further study are this is your textbook, and these are some good blogs that you may refer for further study about the topic. Okay, so we will discuss one by one various enterprise risk management recommendations. Okay. So what is enterprise risk management recommendations? With the advent of cloud computing, every organization is operating in an environment that is rapidly changing, irrespective of management's opinion or decisions about joining cloud computing. Okay, so management should adopt the organization's ERM program and controls accordingly. So the following sections, in next slide onwards, okay, elaborates on recommended risk responses for some of the more significant cloud-related risk presented in the publication. Okay, so here is a blog of this COSO ERM framework, and this is another blog, and I have taken some recommendations of this enterprise risk management recommendations and their countermeasure, like what are various risk and what are various risk responses over there. Like first type of risk that is exposed to this cloud based environment, so that is unauthorized cloud activity. Okay, so if you noticed any unauthorized cloud activity, so what should be your risk response? So you should I think frame your policies and controls to mitigate the impact of such type of activity, that is unauthorized cloud activity. Okay. So here is the explanation of this type of risk. Like all organizations should have policies to establish controls to prevent and detect the unauthorized procurement and use of cloud services. Regardless of management's position on venturing into cloud computing due to low cost of initiating cloud services relative to traditional technology purchases, currently controls such as expenditure limits may not trigger appropriate attention from management. Okay, so for organizations that have decided to adopt cloud computing, the following are some of the suggested risk responses with respect to unauthorized cloud activity. Like first is establish a cloud uses policy that clearly articulates the business processes and data the management deems appropriate to be supported by cloud computation. As I have told earlier, that you need to identify the activities or operations for which you are going to adopt this cloud-based environment. Okay. So you should establish the policies and control so that the business processes that you have within cloud should be secure enough from this unauthorized cloud activity. Okay, so you should establish a procedure as well as control mechanism over there. Next is create and update a policy that identifies who is authorized to procure cloud computing services. Okay, in your organization you have procurement department or you have IT department, and make it responsible to procure cloud related services. Take the pilot project, and after that implement it. Means process wide cloud deployment should be there. So that you should decide, means create and update a policy that identifies who is authorized in your organization to procure the cloud computing related services. Okay, next is identify approved cloud vendors. Okay, what is approval? Basically there are some certain parameters over there to select cloud vendors basically. Okay, means you have certain criteria, na? Means some standards should be followed, some rating should be followed. Okay, and some recommendations from your experts. So all these, based on all these parameters, you should identify the best I think cloud vendors in your field basically. Okay, that are providing best services to other players also. Okay, so you should identify approved as well as I think best rated cloud vendors for your for your business process related adoption of cloud. Okay, so next, define policy and communicate guidance on the management of relationship with CSP. CSP is what? Cloud service provider. Okay. So define policy and communicate guidance on the management of relationship with CSP means you need to identify what part you want to consider while deploying through that cloud computing, and as well as disclosures, as well as communication policy should be there. So all these things should be clearly defined. Okay, so that is basically cloud. You should draft a clear cut cloud policies and control over there to limit that unauthorized cloud activity in your system. So for example, a small business unit of a large corporation independently decided to leverage a cloud based customer relationship management system for our new product sales initiative. Okay, like I think some automotive companies there, and if one distributor has decided that he want to implement that CRM based system based on cloud for their new product sales initiative. So with no established corporate cloud policy, the business unit started this initiative without engaging the internal IT group. Okay, suppose a small unit is there, and that is independently decided to adopt this cloud-based model, but large corporation did not given any approval or does not have any corporate cloud policy. So in that case, that a small business unit may face some problem. Okay, so the business unit started this initiative without engaging the internal IT group of that large organization, or making a capital expenditure request. The cloud solution required only internet access and a credit card, basically. Okay, so once launched, the system was populated with data about customers and prospects. So consequently, confidential customer information was being stored outside the corporation's internal computing environment without being subject to the organization's control or operating procedure. Means the customer data related to that organization, that is small organization, will be shared through that cloud vendor. And maybe if that company is not the authentic one, in that case this data may leak. Okay, so that's why if you are going to adopt this cloud based environment, you should decide a clear cut corporate cloud policy as well as control over their and should engage all the stakeholders or all the parts of your organization in this type of activity. Okay, so that is basically one type of risk that occurs in this enterprise risk management scenario. Second type of risk is this lack of transparency. Okay, so response is that assessment of the CSP control environment. Okay, if there is lack of transparency, means some data is hidden, or means will not be communicated on time through your CSP cloud service provider. In that case, you need to assess the CSP control environment. Okay, and you should have some right or some control of that data with yourself. Okay, so that you should decide. Means if there is lack of transparency, so completing a high quality and through risk assessment of CSP environment can be challenging when the desired information is incomplete or difficult to obtain. Okay, like you want to get the log of your employees, whether what the things they are being accessed, and if your CSP is not providing, so that is basically lack of transparency. So in most of the cases, a CSP's internal control environment is not completely visible to its customers. Okay, so to partially overcome the challenges of gaining insight into a CSP's operations and controls, management should include control related inquiries in our request for proposal or in the due diligence process. Okay, so management should also attempt to include a right to audit clause in the contract with each CSP. What is right to audit? Basically, any time or any particular cycle, you may audit your CSP's data that are associated with your CSPs. Okay, so you may audit and you may get log, you may access that log. So that is basically right to audit. Okay, means you may see your data, how your CSP is maintaining it. Is it safe, secure, or is it transparent in terms of communication? So that you should audit. So you should, I think, put a clause over there in your service level agreement, right to audit clause. Okay. So next, as part of assessing the CSP's internal environment, management should, preferably before the CSP is engaged, conduct interviews to determine how the CSP would address certain risk event. And sometimes if you have drafted that SLA, and after that you may also amend if you found that is there any lack of transparency or miscommunication over there. In that case, you may rectify or you may recommend some suggestions in terms of this SLA, okay, to your CSP basically. So next type of risk that we are going to address is security, compliance, data leakage, and data jurisdiction. Okay, so such type of risk response is data classification policies and procedure. What is basically data classification? So if you talk about data classification, means classify or categorize data into different blocks or different categories basically. Okay, so that while you retrieve data, you can easily pick it up. Okay, so that is basically means response while dealing with such type of problems. Means you should classify in different categories data and put it on that category. Means some data is confidential, so put in that category confidential. Some data is means general uses, so that you may means define in that category also. So just data classification policies and procedure over there. Okay, so what are the various risks that are security, compliance, data leakage, and data jurisdiction? And response is that data classification policies should be there and processes should be there. So moving to the public or hybrid cloud computing solution, cloud change current location of data, storage, transaction processing, and control structures. Means earlier it was maintained and managed by that organization, and now you have adopted this public and hybrid cloud. So in that case, the data location is different. Means in place of your organization maintaining it in your organization, it is maintaining in some remote location. So current location of data, storage, transaction processing, and control structure are the basically these all have been changed. Okay, so these changes require analysis since they are likely to have an impact on how the organization's operations remain compliant with applicable laws and regulations. Okay, so you should adopt this contractual language should clearly define what is contractual language. Basically that service level agreement that you have defined in between you and you as a client as well as your cloud service provider. So define the CSP's responsibilities regarding meeting compliance and regulatory requirement on behalf of the organization. Okay, so if an organization's data resides in a cloud solution, means with the possible exceptions of private cloud, there is no ability to identify the data's specific current location, means server or storage devices, or the data's residence history of location. Okay, so note that few CSPs do offer an option to specify the desired country of residence for data in their processor. As I have told you that nowadays most of the companies are residing their data center in that country where they are operating basically. Okay, and earlier they used to maintain a central database in their native country basically. So nowadays this is a change just because of these issues like security, compliance, data leakage, and data jurisdiction. Okay, so this location challenge is due to the nature of multi-tenant cloud environment in which the resources are reused and dynamically allocated to cloud customers. Okay, so this inability to identify the specific location of data storage and processing with cloud solution may present obstacle in meeting e-discovery or data lineage requirement. Okay, so the this limitation could have a big impact on the data storage, or to a lesser extent the transaction processing activities that an organization might want to support by cloud computing. Okay, so you should I think properly classify your data, and should draft policies as per the classification. Like confidential data you should put on private cloud only, and if some data is general and common for all and easily accessible, like most of the companies are nowadays giving their annual report to the public. Okay, and as well as this uh, what are means basic details are there, as well as balance sheet are there. So basically this is general data, so you can put it on public or hybrid cloud also. So you may clearly classify your data, as well as put it in different cloud based deployment model. Okay, so you may use multiple cloud deployment model over there. Okay, so next is data classification policy should clearly define the types of information deemed sensitive and prohibited from residing outside of organization's direct control. Okay, so you should clearly classify your data, and if it is confidential or sensitive information, you should prohibited it from residing outside. Means you should opt for a cloud vendor that will prepare a private cloud within the territory of your organization. Okay, so that you can directly control over that data. Okay, so lot many organizations, as I have told, that defense basically, and this your national importance institution of national importance, they are basically having their data center inside their organization or within the periphery of their organization basically. Okay, so ultimately data classification policy should ensure that the purpose, ownership, and the sensitivity of different types of organizational data are clearly communicated and understood throughout the organization. Okay, so these policies should be supported by data classification processes that include the following, like mapping of that data as legal, regulatory, intellectual property, or security requirement to various types of data. Okay, similarly, determining the sensitivity means public, restricted, or highly sensitive of various types of data. Okay, similarly, establish the requirements such as encryption is required or not for data transmission. Okay, which type of data need which type of encryption, and identifying the data owners. Okay, individuals who are the proper knowledge and authority to decide who should be granted data access and type of data access, means a business manager or compliance officer. Okay, so that you should decide basically while classifying the data. Next type of risk is reliability issue, performance issue, high value cyber attack target. Okay, so that type of means business information you should dealt with incident management. What is incident management? Means based upon incident what happened, okay, or what happened in past, you may put a case over there, and based on that you should decide what should we do in different scenario. Okay, so if the risk is related with the reliability part, performance part, and high value cyber attack target, so in that case you should implement this incident management. Means you should have a immediate response team that will act upon this type of activities. Okay, so what are this type of activity and what are the responses? An organization needs to evaluate its CSP's capability to provide adequate incident responses in addition to its own incident response procedure for system disruption and data theft scenario. Okay, so it may be the responsibility of yourself, means as a cloud client, or your CSP, cloud service provider, means who will be responsible in such type of incident, that you should decide and act upon. Means you should have an immediate response team to act upon such type of incidents. Okay, so a CSP system failure or security breach is likely to affect multiple customers. Okay, so when these type of events occur, the CSP's initial focus will be to resolve the issue for its cloud environment. Okay, suppose that a system has been failed or some security breaches there in CSP's part. So in that case, CSP response team will be active and work upon to resolve such type of problems. Okay, so CSP's initial focus will be to resolve the issue for its cloud environment, and that is the CSP's that is the CSP is unlikely to focus on addressing the issues of each tenant individually. Okay, so as a result, management incident response plans should not rely solely on its CSP. Means you should not totally dependent on your CSP, but you should also work upon that. Means you should also have some business continuity planning. In that case, means how will you maintain or how will you use that time for your business perspective. So that you should decide, or you should act upon that point also. Okay, not solely or not totally dependent on your cloud service provider, unless management is willing to accept the worst case scenario for CSP support if an adverse incident were to occur. Okay, so the following example elaborate on inherent risk and related migration control for situation related to cloud solution system failure, means reliability and cyber attacks. Like in this problem pandemic, okay, earlier we all were means just stagnant in, or just stopped our processes, but nowadays everything is working properly. Okay, each and every business organization is working properly, just because just to overcome such type of situation. Okay, so that is basically means you should activate your immediate response team in this case while some problem or something means beyond the boundary has been occurred. So in that case, what should be your strategy? Okay, so that you should decide basically. So in this case, here are some incidences like system failure is there. So system failure is a risk event that can occur in any computing environment in the event of a catastrophic system failure and multiple tenants simultaneously requiring support. Okay, so lower priority organization might not receive the required services level with response from the CSP. Means in the case of system failure, CSP will prefer those organizations that are having higher stake in their services. Okay, not the companies that are having means lower priority organization, or some organization that have taken some limited space over there. So CSP will not taken much on that concern. So you should decide in that case what will you do. Okay, so control that can migrate the risk of system failure, like engage other CSP that have same solution as your primary CSP and maintain copies of your organization data so it can easily be deployed to the backup CSP. Means in that case, okay, generally clients do that, they are adopting multiple CSP. Okay, means if one cloud service provider have been failed, in that case we may shift our operation with the other CSP. Okay, implement the processes to monitor system availability, implement automated tools that provide resources on demand for the cloud solution from another service provider, or review service level agreement to ensure that the CSP will provide adequate response in the event of system failure. So these are some of the mechanism or some of the control mechanism that you may adopt while facing such type of issue, system failure. Okay, next is cyber attack. In case of cyber attack, every organization has an inherent risk of cyber attacks on its system. So the consolidation of multiple large organizations on a CSP's infrastructure present to hackers a larger and possibly a more well-known target. Okay, so consider a situation in which a small and obscure company is sharing the cloud infrastructure of a high-profile organization or CSP. The small company likelihood of being a target of cyber attack escalates to same level as that of well-known organization or high-profile CSP. Okay, so in that case, if you are a small company or having a low share of data in with your CSP, in that case, what should be the control mechanism? So control that can mitigate the risk of cyber attack means host only non-essential and non-sensitive data on third-party CSP solution. Okay, and deploy the encryption over data hosted on cloud solution, and have a defined failover strategy that would leverage another CSP solution or the internal solution. Means in that case, first you should have non-essential or non-sensitive data with your CSP and encrypt over data. Most of the hosting companies are providing different types of solutions. Okay, so based on your need, depends upon your requirement, you should opt for that CSP, cloud service provider, or hosting solution basically. Okay, so that is basically the control strategy to mitigate such type of cyber attacks. Okay, next is non-compliance with the regulation. What are the regulations? Means you have put it some rules and regulation over there. Okay, with your cloud service provider, and that company is non-compliance the regulations, rules and regulations that you have drafted in SLA. So in that case, the response would be monitoring of external environment, what other CSPs are doing. Okay, if they are doing, in that case, you should need or make a change over there in your SLA, or otherwise take strict action for to your that CSP basically. So management needs to monitor for changes in the external environment that would affect its own operations and the operations of its CSP. Okay, so changes to the regulations or telecommunication providers may have a significant impact on how cloud computing can be used. So major regulatory changes are anticipated in the area of data privacy, and various countries are implementing protective measures to restrict moving and storing their citizens' personally identifiable information outside of their country's border. Okay, as I have told earlier that nowadays most of the companies are putting their data center in the country in which they are operating basically. Okay, so as a result, cloud-based solutions may need to be designed to store certain data within specific country borders instead of storing the data in the country that is at CSP's discretion. Okay, so these are some of the risk associated with this cloud-based environment related with this enterprise risk management planning. Okay, so these are some references that you may refer for further study about the topic. And if you have some doubt or queries, you may ask. Thank you.